Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon. Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Broadening your horizon is what every living being not only genuinely desires, but heartily pursues and intentionally invests in. For in the gathering of men, only those whose minds are in tune with the dynamics of the past, present, and future innovations, inventions, politics, and governance are respected. We are Spectrum Television, and broadening your horizon is our obsession. Rescan your decoder now to connect Spectrum Television on the frequency 12589, symbol rate 26250. That is frequency 12589, symbol rate 26250, polarization horizontal, and join our online community at spectrumtvlive.ng. For further inquiries, please call 0704 158 5642 or 0704 541 7707. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Hello, viewer. Welcome. This is Worldview on Spectrum TV, one program that that brings trending issues happening in the world to you. My name is Emedion James, reporting live from Uyo. Let's take a look at some of the headlines that we have for you today. Trump threatens extra 10% tariff on BRICS as leaders meet in Brazil. Children queuing for supplements killed in Israeli strike in Gaza. Macron says record illegal channel crossing points to Britain's failure. This and many more coming up shortly on Worldview Today. Many thanks for staying tuned. Our first story on Worldview takes the spotlight now to the White House, where US President Donald Trump ramped up his tariff assault on Canada on Thursday, saying the US would impose a 35% tariff on imports next month and plan to impose blanket tariff of 15% or 20% on most other trading partners. In a letter released on a social media platform, Trump told Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney the new rate would go into effect on August the 1st and would go up if Canada retaliated. In a post on X late Thursday, Kenya said its government will continue to defend Canadian workers and businesses in their negotiations with the US as they work towards that deadline. Meanwhile, the 35% tariff is an increase from the current 25% rate that Trump had assigned to Canada and is a blow to Kenya, who was seeking to agree a trade pact with Washington. An exclusion for goods covered by the United States, Mexico, and Canada agreement on the trade was expected to stay in place, and 10% tariff on energy. In the meantime, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi in Kuala Lumpur today as the two major powers vied to push their agendas in Asia at a time of simmering tensions over a U.S. trade tariff offensive. Washington top diplomat is in Malaysia on his first trip to Asia since taking office, attending the East Asia Summit and ASEAN Regional Forum alongside counterparts from Japan, China, South Korea, Russia, Australia, India, the European Union, and the Southeast Asian states. His meeting with Wang comes amid escalating friction globally over US President Donald Trump's tariff with China this week, warning the United States against reinstating hefty levies on its goods next month. Meanwhile, Beijing has also threatened to retaliate against nations that strike deals with the United States to cut China out of supply chains. In a separate development, US President Donald Trump is heading to Central Texas today to survey damage from the June 4th flash flood that killed at least 120 people and left dozens more missing. His visit comes amid intense focus on the government response a week after the storm and as thousands of first responders come through muddy debris with hopes of diminished of finding additional survivors. Torrential rain set a wall of water raging down the Guadalupe River in the pre-dawn hours of the U.S. Independence Day holiday. The disaster is the deadliest of the Republican president's nearly 6 month term in office. According to a White House official, Trump is expected to speak with family members of the victims and emergency responders. On entertainment, US singer Chris Brown today pleaded not guilty to a charge of assault causing actual bodily harm by allegedly attacking a music producer with a bottle in a London nightclub 2 years ago. Brown last month denied a more serious charge of attempting to inflict grievous bodily harm in what prosecutors said was an unprovoked attack on Abraham Dunn in a London nightclub in 2023. The 36-year-old appeared at London's Southwark Crown Court today, where he spoke only to confirm his name and enter his plea of not guilty to causing actual bodily harm and a further charge of possessing an offensive weapon in a public place. Let's move now to the Middle East, where Israel believes that Iran would potentially retrieve enriched uranium buried beneath one of the three facilities struck by US forces last month, according to a senior Israeli official. Speaking to US reporters, the official said that reaching the enriched uranium at Isfahan would be extremely difficult and any attempt could prompt renewed Israeli strikes. Donald Trump has repeatedly claimed that US air and missile strikes on Iran in June obliterated the country's nuclear facilities even as some US intelligence agencies have taken a more cautious view. Iran denies seeking to develop nuclear weapons and says its enrichment of uranium is for peaceful purposes. According to the official, Israel's assessment is that Iran's nuclear program was set back 2 years. Trump and members of his administration have been adamant that Iranian nuclear facilities were completely destroyed. Also, officials say that dozens of Kurdistan's Workers' Party (PKK) militants began handing over weapons in a ceremony in a cave in northern Iraq today, marking a symbolic but significant step towards ending a decade-long insurgency against Turkey. Reports say helicopters hovered over the mountain where the disarmament process got underway, with dozens of Iraqi Kurdish security forces surrounding the area. The PKK, locked in conflict with the Turkish state and outlawed since 1984, decided in May to disband, disarm, and end its separatist struggle after a public call to do so from its long imprisoned leader, Abdul Öcalan. After a series of failed peace efforts, the new initiative could pave the way for Ankara to end an insurgency that has killed over 40,000 people, burdened the economy, and wreaked deep social and political divisions in Turkey and the wider region. Elsewhere, a Pakistani court today suspended an order seeking to ban the YouTube channel of more than 2 dozen critics of the government, including former Prime Minister Imran Khan, a defense lawyer said. Alphabet owned YouTube this week told 27 content creators that it would block their channels, including those of journalist and Khan and his opposition party, Pakistan Tariq and Insaf, if they fail to comply with a judicial magistrate court order seeking to ban them. A regional communication manager for YouTube did not respond to a request from reporters for a comment. Let's move now to the Israel and the Gaza war scene, where a hospital in Gaza says at least 15 Palestinians, including 8 children and 2 women, have been killed in an Israeli strike while queuing for nutritional supplement in front of a clinic in central Gaza. Video from Al Qwasa Mataya Hospital in Deir al-Bala showed the bodies of several children and others lying on the floor as medics treated their wounds. US-based aid group Project Hope, which runs the clinic, said the attack was a blatant violation of international law. The Israeli military said it struck a Hamas terrorist and regretted any harm to civilians. There were among 66 people reportedly killed in Israeli strikes on Thursday as Israel and Hamas continue talks on a ceasefire deal. Despite optimism expressed by the US, which is acting as a mediator along with Qatar and Egypt, they do not so far seem to be close to a breakthrough. In the meantime, negotiations between Israel and Hamas in Qatar on a new Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal have stalled after 3 days of indirect talks, a Palestinian official has told newsmen. The officials say key sticking points include how aid would be distributed during the ceasefire and Israeli troops' withdrawals. On Wednesday, Donald Trump insisted there was a very good chance a deal would be reached either this week or next. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is visiting the US, said he wanted a deal, but not at any price. Meanwhile, Hamas said ongoing talks were tough because of Israel's intransigency. Hamas said it had agreed to release 10 hostages as part of a deal. It also said several issues such as the flow of aid, withdrawal of Israeli forces from the Gaza Strip, and guarantees for a permanent ceasefire were still being negotiated. Let's go on a short break now. When we return, the spotlight will be on Russia and Africa. Do stay joined to us for these and many more stories right after the breather. Many thanks for staying tuned. Let's turn the spotlight now to Russia, where a Russian drone attack on the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv today damaged a maternity hospital, authorities said, terrifying patients as windows shattered and shards of glass fell onto the bed, leaving families rushing to shelter their babies. According to Kharkiv regional prosecutor, three women and three newborns suffered acute stress and received medical help. Russia has increased the intensity of aerial attacks in recent weeks and carried out more missile and drone strikes across Ukraine. In the meantime, Kiev will allocate 260 million hryvnias, that's approximately $6.2 million, for a drone interceptor program to defend the capital skies from Russian drones, city authorities said today. Russia has stepped up its combined attacks on the Ukrainian capital in recent weeks, launching hundreds of drones and missiles in hours-long night assaults, which caused damage to most of the city's district. These funds could be used not only to purchase equipment, but also to create an effective response system. The head of Kiev City Military Administration, Timur Takchenko, wrote on a Telegram messaging app. In the Asia Pacific region, the South Defense Ministry said today that South Korea, Japan, and the United States conducted a joint air drill today involving a US B 52 strategic bomber and fighter jets of three allies over international waters. Was deployed to the Korean peninsula for a drill conducted to improve deterrence against North Korea's increasing nuclear and missile threat. The Defense Ministry said in a statement that the three countries' defense chiefs also held an annual meeting in Seoul today where they recognized the importance of close trilateral cooperation in addressing security challenges posed by North Korea in the Indo-Pacific and beyond. Away from that, thousands of Bosnia gathered at a cemetery near Srebrenica today to mark the 30th anniversary of a massacre in which more than 8,000 Muslim men and boys were executed by Bosnian Serb forces during a 1992-5 war. World War II, which still haunts Bosnia and Herzegovina's 3 million people decades later. Families who retrieve victims' remains have increasingly opted to bury even just a few bones to give them a final resting place. At the ceremony today, the partial remains of 7 victims were to be buried alongside 6,750 already interred. Survivors, families, and dignitaries walked along rows of white gravestones. Some prayed and cried at the graveside or sat motionless, heads buried in their hands. Let's move. The case arose from the rape and attempted murder. The case arose from the rape and attempted murder of a 6-year-old girl in Imarisiantosika, a municipality 30 kilometers west of the capital, Antananarivo. Dida Razavindralambo, the Attorney General at the Court of Appeal, said today. The person prosecuted in the case was sentenced by the court to life imprisonment with hard labor accompanied by castration. He said in a video statement released to media by the Ministry of Justice. The punishment was introduced last year as part of a 2024 law in Madagascar addressing rapes of minors aged 10 and below. The government said it introduced the law because the court had recorded many such cases in Africa. Liberians reacted with a mix of anger and a wary resignation on Thursday after discovering that the leader of their country's closest bilateral partners do not appear to know what language they speak. At a meeting at the White House on Wednesday, US President Donald Trump responded to a brief remark from his Liberian counterpart, Joseph Boakai, by marveling at his beautiful English and asking where he learned it. However, most people reacted by saying that English is the why the president is surprised they can speak fluently. Elsewhere, Kenyan President William Ruto has approved a new chairperson and commissioners to head the Election Commission. A legal notice showed filling positions of critical influence in the country with a long history of contentious polls. The East African nation next general election will be held in 2027, but Ruto is already under pressure from street protests led by young Kenyans